Hold on. Okay, we've just started recording, Adam, so yes, we are currently looking at my screen.
Okay, fantastic. So everybody, welcome to the second webinar for the planning subject. This particular webinar is going to be unpacking a couple of the learning activities. We're going to be looking at professional growth and work priorities. Actually, we'll probably do it in the reverse order. So we'll be looking at work priorities and professional growth. This is the second out of 6 webinars for this particular subject. Just to recap, we will be having 3 webinars on what we call the resource support webinars. And the resource support webinars are really designed to help you through the actual learning activities, which is basically unpacking the actual content itself, talking about the actual quizzes, what we're expecting from each of the answers in the quizzes, and really just having an opportunity just to actually explore the material a little bit, try and put a few anecdotes or stories into the actual material and hope that it makes a little bit more sense when you're actually coming to the work. The last 3 webinars in this series are going to be dedicated to the actual assessment tasks. In this subject planning, there are 3 assessment tasks, and we'll actually have a webinar dedicated for each of those assessments. So this is the second installment of the resource support webinar, where we're actually just going to be talking about a couple of those learning activities, work priorities, and professional development. So glad to have you all tuning into this session. Should we jump straight into it, Alyssa, or is there anything you would like to add before we get stuck straight into, I guess, talking about some of the questions that we're going to face in these couple of learning activities? Alyssa, can you hear me okay?
Adam, can you hear me now? You had a bit of a technical glitch.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, okay.
So Alyssa, if you can hear, oh, I can. Okay, now I can hear you perfectly now.
All right.
So what we'll do is we'll just jump straight. If you're happy to, we'll jump straight into the first round of questions for planning, which is going to be on work priorities. Is there anything that you would like to add, just in reference to before we get started on this particular subject or these subjects at all?
No, absolutely not. I think we
just
just
explore it as we go.
Yeah, I think we can jump straight into those 2 learning activities. So after our introduction last week, I think we're good to go.
Okay, sounds good to me. Let's do it. So right now, everybody, we're looking at Alyssa's screen. Alyssa, she is on the home page for Diploma of Business students. You can see that there's each of the 8 subjects in front of her. We're going to click on planning, which is our first subject, which is the subject that we're going through today. And we'll see that we have our learning activities there. So let's click on planning and let's have a look.
Yep, we're just waiting for it to load.
Sounds good.
Right.
Okie dokie. So right in front of us we've got our lessons for this particular subject. You'll see that you have the learning material. Now that's the content, guys. That's where all the information is stored. And underneath the learning material there's a series of 5 learning activities. Each of those activities does need to be completed before the assessments open up. So if you'll see that you have assessments underneath it that say that they are restricted, the reason for that is that the learning activities must be completed and marked complete before you're ready to go onto the actual assessments. The theory behind that is that these activities is basically a review of the material that you will need and the knowledge that you'll need in order to complete those assessment tasks successfully. So we're just getting you guys prepared, and it gives us, myself and Alyssa as trainers, just the opportunity to identify if there's any learnings that need to happen, if there's any feedback that you may need in reference to some of the material, so that you're ready to go by the time you jump onto those assessment tasks themselves.
Yep.
Happy to jump onto the first one, work priorities, whenever you are ready.
Okay, great. So we're just opening up the learning activities for work priorities.
Sounds good.
Great. Sorry, I'll just go back
So let's go to question number 1.
Yes.
It's a good starting point.
Always a good starting point.
Talking about priorities. Okay, sounds good. So would you like me to read out the question, or would you like to read the question out? How would you like to do that?
All right, well, look, I'll go ahead and read the question out. Just that very first question, there are only 7 questions for this learning activity. And the very first question is, list all of your current work priorities using the priority matrix tool shown below. Your priorities may include current work tasks, upcoming professional development meetings, etc. Now, guys, as we go through the questions, if there is something that you might want to ask or add with regards to a question, just pop your question into the chat box, and then you can maybe unmute your microphone. We just keep all the mics muted so that we don't get much interference as all. Okay, so if you've got a specific question about a specific learning activity, feel free to unmute your microphone and just make sure you expand on your question a little bit more. All right.
Okay, so just to continue on with this particular question, you'll also notice on the screen Alyssa has her mouse hovered over the little image in that first box.
Yep.
And what you can see is that her mouse, the little arrow has actually become a hand. It's an interactive icon. So basically, if you want to get a little bit more information on the proprietary matrix tool, you can actually click on it there, and it will actually open up to the actual learning material itself, or a bit of information on the proprietary matrix tool itself. We do suggest, though, that you do have a couple of instances of your tabs open, just to make things easier, so you can actually have a version of the learning material open on one window, and in the second window have your questions open, so that you can toggle between the two. Yep, so if you click on it, obviously, as Alyssa's just done, you can see it opens up actually with some audio and some visuals, which just gives you an explanation on the proprietary matrix tool. Should we talk a little bit about the proprietary matrix tool here, Alyssa, and I guess what your expectations and my expectations are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kelly, can you hear me nice and clearly? I'm having some troubles as well, Kelly, hearing Alyssa clearly. Kelly, can you hear me nice and clearly?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of background noise coming in somewhere, Adam.
Yeah, it might be coming in from me. If you're the presenter, can you please just mute all microphones? Thank you.
All right.
Just get this sorted out so that the background noise is removed.
All right, Adam, I've muted everybody's microphone, so I've just unmuted
Thank you. Okay. Sounds good. Now, guys, thanks, Kel. As Alyssa mentioned before, if anybody who's in the actual webinar today, if you'd like to ask any questions, we do encourage that. Just put your question into the actual chat window, and then Alyssa will actually unmute your microphone so that we can minimize the background noise and get you to speak. Let's talk straight about the proprietary matrix tool, this little picture that we have in front of us here. Now, the way that I would explain, I guess, this tool, and we can have a bit of a chat about how I guess it's used, is that there's 4 circles. Each circle has a word in it. That's what we can see. Now, when you combine 2 of the circles together, we've got a number. So, for example, number 1 is a combination between the word urgent and the word important. Number 2 is a combination between the word important and the word urgent. 3 between urgent and not important. 4 not urgent, not important. What we're effectively saying there is that there's 4 categories that you can put your tasks. When we say the word task, we can mean activities, jobs, just things that you're doing, generally speaking, in terms of your profession. In there. So first category is a task that is important and urgent. So not only is it urgent, it's got to be done now, but it's also important. It's category 1. Category 2 is tasks, activities or things that are important but are not urgent. Don't have to be done now, really important, but don't have to be done now. Category 3 is an interesting one actually. This is a very interesting category. This is where you've got things that are absolutely urgent, however, they're not important. Interesting phenomenon. And category 4 we're looking at is things that are not urgent and also not important as well. So what we're looking for in this question, and then we can maybe have a bit of a chit chat about it, what we're really looking for in this question is for you guys to identify at a minimum of 1 of your tasks or activities that can be put into each of those 4 categories. So what we're hoping that you can demonstrate is that you can make a distinction between things that are important and things that are not important, but also things that are urgent and things that are not so urgent. Alyssa, did you want to add anything to that as far as what you're expecting?
No, I I think you've covered it. I think if you guys are looking for ways to kind of answer it, you might maybe just go category 1 and then you put your priority in there. So prepare training resources, I guess. And then your category 2, you just pop in your actual priority in there. Then you can put in category 3 and then just answer like that if you want. So as Adam said, just one priority per category, essentially. Okay? So think about your day, think about what your priorities are, and then just pick one priority that is relevant to each of these categories. Urgent, important, important, not urgent, urgent, not important, not urgent, not important. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I would do. Yeah, just
one other thing. Sorry, Alyssa, one other thing that I'll just clear up here for all students here. The question does state list your current work priorities. And we do understand that not all students are currently employed as we speak. The way to answer this if you're not currently employed at the moment is to actually reflect on your current professional situation. So and to do that, what we're really asking for you to do is to consider what your individual professional objectives are over, say, the next sort of 6 months to 12 months sort of period. So you might be looking to get work in a particular field. You might be looking to do another course after this. I'm not really sure what your goals are or your objectives are for the next sort of short to medium term. But once you have that in mind in terms of this is what my objectives are, I want you to consider, therefore, what you're doing or what your priorities are. Sorry, that's for the next question. But just to determine if they line up, i.e. if your objectives are in line with what your priorities are. For this question, we just want you to list what your actual current professional priorities are. What activities are you doing each day that have some sort of resemblance or reference towards your professional priorities? So going down to the supermarket is probably not one. However, doing this course is. So anything related to completing this course would be a current priority that you could list in there. As an example, Alyssa, do you want to take that any further or expand on that at all?
No, I think as we talk through the next question, I think it'll start to make a little bit more sense. I guess just keep it as simple as you can, guys, for this answer. Maybe just don't overcomplicate it too much, because I think the more you kind of think about it, the more difficult, the more challenging the answer might become for you, or the question might become for you. So I reckon we just keep it nice and simple like that, and then we explore the next question.
Yep. Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's do it. Let's have a look at question number 2.
Yep.
Would you like to read that out? Read out.
Yes, I would love to read that out, Adam. Let me just get All right, it says, think about your current role and discuss what the business objectives are for you and the team. Then consider your priorities. Do they reflect the business needs? If yes, explain how, and if no, explain why. Okay. This is a bit of a tricky question, I think, and as Adam said previously, you might not actually be currently employed at the moment, so it might be harder to kind of make direct reference to the term business objectives. But again, as Adam mentioned, if you've got any home-based objectives, or perhaps if you've worked previously in another organisation, another role, you can always apply those situations to this particular question, okay? So what do you think about, it's...
Yep, Alyssa, can I just cut in there?
Sure.
Sorry, we have like this couple seconds delay when we speak, so I apologise. I don't mean to be talking over the top of you. What I wanted to say is, yeah, you're 100% right, the guys can use their previous working example. However, we would generally prefer that you would use a future objective that you've got in mind. If you're not employed at the moment, that is, that you're using some sort of future objective that you have. Because what we're really asking you to do is reflect on what sort of things. Question 1 asks you, what are you doing right now? What are the things you're doing? Question 2 is saying, those things that you've identified in question 1, are they leading to, is there a synergy there between what you're trying to achieve and what you're doing right now? That's sort of what the question is kind of asking. So you can answer it retrospectively, i.e. you can answer it as per previous employment. I think it's better to stick to using some sort of future objective that you have If you can. If you can't, then yep, as you say, Melissa.
Okay, cool. Yep, sounds good. I guess as Adam just said as well, it's just reiterating that just, I guess, whatever business objectives or whatever objectives that you currently have, goals that you might have that perhaps you're just kind of working towards achieving them in terms of prioritising what you need to do to reach that greater good, I guess.
Sounds good. Alyssa, let's just talk about, generally speaking, prioritising your time and doing sort of things like that.
Yep.
How do you, you're a quite organised person. How do you generally go about preparing your day, preparing your week? How do you go about it? What sort of things do you do? Let's talk, the guys that are new to study may not be familiar with seeing what we call these learning models. So the priority matrix, it's a tool, it's a model. There's lots of these things that you'll see in the world of learning. And a lot of the time these things aim to sort of give you a bit of an explanation of things. What I'd just like to say in reference to a lot of these models are they do help they do assist in the learning, but they are not the be-all and end-all. So it is not to say that there are only 4 categories and all priorities must fit into one of these 4 categories. That's absolutely not to say that at all. But what that, for example, that previous tool does, the learnings that I take out of that is it does make a distinction between what's urgent and what's not urgent, and what's important and what's not important. So for me, when I'm looking at that, it actually helps me try and understand the things that I'm doing. Is that important and urgent right now, or is it something that can wait? And if it's something that can wait, then it's important to know that when you're actually prioritising time. But just generally speaking, Melissa, I'd be curious to just have a chat with you about the things that you do. Do you find that you work better at certain times of the day?
Yeah.
Do you find, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really is about kind of knowing when you work best and knowing what it is, some of the bigger things and the more urgent things that you have to do, and doing those at the right time where you know you're the most productive. Okay, like for me, after about 9 o'clock, I'm a bit of an early riser, so I like to get up at 5:30 in the morning. But after 9 o'clock in the evening or after 8 o'clock in the evening, I really cannot do anything work-related, okay? I have to do it really, really early, and in the morning I am probably the most productive, so that's where I do all of my urgent and most important tasks there, because that's what I know about myself. I do those things that are probably a little less important or a little less urgent or are just easier to kind of, the task is a little bit easier, and I do those in the evening.
Yep.
Because that's when
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I'll try and keep sort of creative jobs towards the end part of the day. I'm not a creative person at 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't wake up and get creative. So I'm not going to do a creative task or a task that requires a little bit of fun or a little bit of, creativity. I'm not going to do that at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's also, as well as, understanding what's important and what's urgent and prioritising our time, I think it's just as important in understanding how we as individuals work and what things work for us. So understanding that, the middle of the day is not the best time to get creative, and the start of the day for me is not. But as Alyssa said, that the start of the day is the best time for me to jump on emails and to do some marking or assess some work, things like that. I quite often do a bit of assessing at the start of the day, and leave the afternoon to have conversations and do things like that. So it just depends on what you've got to do. But one of the considerations in prioritising your time is to understand how you operate yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this topic really is all about you guys as well. I mean, like, it's about knowing about what works well for you, what your goals are, what your objectives are, where your areas for personal growth are. And it really is a great topic to just kind of start to consider who you are, what you want, what you need, and how you can go about getting those things, essentially.
Yep. If anybody who's in the audience with us today, and we realise there's going to be a lot that will be watching on delayed telecast. It's funny, I just call it delayed telecast. If anybody has any questions, or if anybody would like to add anything to this conversation in terms of maybe ways that they go about prioritising their work day, or any technique or anything that they've done in the past that's worked really well, we'd love to hear it. Feel free to put something in the chat window, and then we'll a listener and I will do is unmute your microphone and you can join the conversation. So yeah, feel free to do that, guys. Okay, we're getting a question now saying that on the screen you see that there's a little flag. There's a flag in the box where it says question 2. Yeah, what that does, it just produces a flag for a listener and I to look at it. Yep. It's not really relevant as far as we're concerned because, you know, we have our own standards to effectively mark things as quickly as possible. So we don't really need to flag things or prioritize things at all. So if you have any comments that you'd like to put in the box, you can do so. A lot of students, what they're doing is saying, if they're putting an answer in that box, they might say, "Hi Adam, I'm a little bit confused about X, Y, and Z," and then they put their answer in. So if you have any questions, just put them in the answer box anyway. So I don't really think that the flagging button is of great relevance for students.
Yep.
Alyssa, do you have any other uses?
Yeah, no, I really don't think it is either. Yeah, I would probably just not focus too much on the use of that tool, I think, yeah.
Nah. Thanks for the question, Kel. Much appreciated. Should we have a look at the next question?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Just loading up question 3 now. And here we go.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay, so this is a little short video here. It goes for about a minute and 50 odd seconds thereabouts, talking about technology. And it just asks a couple of questions in terms of, you know, what can technology do to help you. It's pretty sort of straightforward, this question. I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time talking about this one. Alyssa, have you got what would you like to talk about, I guess, in reference to this question? What sort of answers are you looking for? What sort of responses?
Yeah, look, I'm just looking for, with this particular question, what did you learn from watching the YouTube video in relation to technology and planning priorities? So after you watch it, you know, just give me some thoughts about what you learnt about technology and it's kind of linked to planning and priorities. And then I guess I'm just looking for a couple of examples of what technology could be used, or what technology you actually use to, I guess, manage your own priorities and commitments. And when we say technology, we want you to be a little bit specific, so don't just let me know that you use a computer. I'm probably wanting you to kind of identify more maybe software, or if you're using a phone, some different apps that you might use as well. So try and be a bit specific when you're answering the second part of that question, okay? Because a computer is
absolutely.
But I want to know what elements of a computer or what elements of a phone can help you manage those priorities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, and also don't say mobile phone. We want to know what specifically about the mobile phone, what sort of technology you're using with that mobile phone, and how you're using it. So, actually, a student actually made me aware of a brand new app called Awesome Calendar on the new iPhone. And guys, if you're tuning into this webinar, you've just got a great tip. Do a Google search, have a little look at it. It's a brand new app for planning, prioritizing, and organising your own commitments, whether it be work, personal. But this is what we're sort of looking for. We just want you to identify a couple of things there, that technology that can assist you. I guess the main underlying point that I take out of this is that the world's a changing place, and business changes constantly with the demands that are out there. Technology is one of the biggest drivers for change. So as technology changes, businesses and humans individually, we change the way that we do things. It's really important just to understand that connection between technology and change, and being aware of the technology that's available. Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, if you're unaware of the technology that's available, if you don't change with that technology, you'll be left behind. So that's the way I sort of look into this. But I think that's pretty much the vibe and the gist.
Absolutely.
Question 3. Do you want to add anything more to that one?
No, because that one really does extend on to question 4, which really looks at what is the purpose of using technology to plan and prioritize. So I guess this is a really big extension of this particular question. And you know, why is technology used to be able to plan and prioritize? And you know, I think Adam kind of touched on some of that when you spoke about the relevance to the last question. So, you know, technology is something that is ever changing, and you will get left behind if you don't constantly update. So again, just link these two ideas and these two questions together. And yeah, let just tell us a little bit about using technology to plan and prioritise.
Out of curiosity, Alyssa, what technology do you use to plan and prioritise?
Well, I use two things. I like visual, so I have old school. I have a big giant wall planner in my office, so I like to see visually what I need to do. So I have a look at it over the month, but I also have a very fancy schmancy phone now, and I do like to have constant reminders on my phone. So I actually have a process. If I've got something due, I'll have a 2-week reminder, I have a 1-week reminder, and I have a 1-day reminder on there as well.
Yep.
So,
Those sort of wall charts and those wall things are fantastic visually speaking. I think they are really good, and that's not to say that you shouldn't ever use those.
yep.
But the idea of synchronizing some of your activities in the technology, i.e. a calendar through your phone or through your Microsoft Outlook program or through other devices like that, some of the benefits or the reason for doing this is that we can synchronize these things with other devices. We can share our timetable with other people. We can set reminders that will automatically set off and remind us. They're the sort of things that we can do that you can't do with a piece of paper that's stuck on a wall.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, and that's why I like I like the visual because I can kind of see what the month is looking like, but I also like the phone because it's constantly on me and it's constantly there, and it is something that is very quick to get me information and very quick for me to access certain requirements of information that I have.
Sounds good. Alyssa, I remember talking to you recently about a cafe or a restaurant that you went to recently that the waitress came out and she was using an iPad or a tablet to take your order with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I there's a little Japanese restaurant that we've been going to for quite a while, and it's really cute and it's really nice, and it's nothing like fancy smancy, but whenever we go in there, the lady always comes up to us, and she's never got like a pad and paper. She's got a little, like one of those little mini iPads, and what we do is everything that gets ordered is done so through an app on their iPad. So all she does is she pretty much puts in what we need for dinner, and it goes straight to the kitchen for preparing. And I love it because
That's amazing.
It's fantastic. Many years ago, when I used to work in restaurants way back in the day, we used to have a captain's pad. So we used to first of all make sure we had a pen on us and a piece of paper, and we used to go over to the table and we used to write down the order, like physically write down the order. Then we used to take it to the point of sales, and we used to process the order, and then we used to have to take the docket into the kitchen so chef could cook the food. So, that process took probably all of about 10 minutes to get from the ordering point to the actual kitchen. So, I love the example of what they're using now with regards to technology, because it just becomes, way more efficient, way more productive, and sometimes you're hungry food fast.
Absolutely. So, I mean, look, they identified an opportunity to speed up their processes a little bit, to get that order straight out the back as fast as possible. But I believe, through what you're explaining, that this piece of technology, or this business improvement, if you like, was really on the back of trying to mitigate some of the mistakes or errors that they were making. So, what could this piece of technology help to mitigate or help to remove in terms of error? I would have thought potentially losing a ticket between the waitress and taking it out the back.
Yep, absolutely.
That's gone. What else has changed as a result of implementing this technology?
Oh, look, I think that for me personally, I think it's all about, I think the customer, the ultimate customer service. Like, what defines you from different restaurants, and I think at the end of the day, customers come in, they want quick, fast, efficient service. And, we used to get constant complaints using a paper-based system, because it just took such a long, long period of time. And if you wanted to make changes in that order, you would have to go back and do that whole process again. So there are just so many more, I guess, there's just so many, it's just easier and it's just efficient and it stops a lot of gaps and it stops a lot of mistakes happening, I think.
And it removes a bit of part of that human error. I mean, your handwriting is different to my handwriting, so the chef now has to be a handwriting analyst and interpret, you know, what my handwriting is compared to your handwriting. So it just removes some of those things, and it gives the business, as you say, a competitive edge because they're doing something a little bit different. Something else that they can do going forward is that they can allow their customers to potentially put their order in before they arrive, 10 minutes before they arrive. They could actually order through their mobile phone because their ordering system is now using technology to automate the process. They could potentially put their order in 10 minutes, and when they turn up, there it is sitting there waiting for them, which I know businesses are starting to do that a little bit now too. So, you know, you've got to be ahead of the game, otherwise you're left behind.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And with people and customers now and the demographics as well, people want that. There's an expectation of that level of service and that level of efficiency now too. So, you know, businesses have to make sure they kind of are meeting that standard now and that expectation because there's a lot of competition out there and, you know, you want to be the best in terms of your business and you want to have a good clientele and you know, great reputation. You can't be left behind.
Yep, look, I think without a doubt technology is the biggest driver in business and industry that we've seen in the last, well, ever. I can't think of anything bigger than it. So as far as changes to processes and things like that concerned. So, yeah, should we jump on to the next question? Is anybody that's tuning in have any questions in reference to what we've just gone through would like to comment or include something or say anything in reference to technology and some changes, things that they've maybe noticed or anything at all?
Sorry, I've just moved on to the next question.
Yeah, jump on to the next question.
All right, cool.
Work-life balance. Work-life balance. Firstly, why do you think we even talk about work-life balance? I mean, this is a business subject. What has that got to do with business? What do you think?
Does anybody have any suggestions or any comments with regards to that? It's a great term, work-life balance.
Look, for me, this subject is all about setting goals and getting yourself prepared for the future and planning and organising yourself and doing all of those sorts of things. Sometimes we can bite off a little bit more than we can chew. Sometimes we have big eyes. With both of those expressions, what I'm saying is we sometimes need to get the balance right. Or we do a little bit too much. We burn the candle at both ends. There's another expression.
Getting
but effectively,
expressions, Adam.
Effectively, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Effectively, what we want to make you aware of is if you're not getting things right outside of work, your work is going to be affected.
Yep.
So yes, we're talking about business. Yes, we're here to help you in terms of understanding business and the language of business and all of those sorts of things. You know, you could study and research and do and improve yourself 5%, 10%. That's all well and good, but if you don't get enough sleep, if you're not happy, if you're not eating properly, if the things are out of balance, then your professional situation is going to suffer majorly. Majorly. It's just about understanding, I guess, that connection between work and life. I mean, work is such a big part of our life. Yeah. That it's really just about, you know, finding a nice balance. What would you like to say in reference to this topic and what it means to you?
I actually think that humans are very holistic, and a very, very old school of thought was always that, you know, whenever you came to work, you left all your personal problems behind. Like that, you know, you should be focused and you should be forgetting everything that's happening at home. and you should become this person that kind of walks onto a stage and you are there in that moment, and you're there to work, and don't let anything affect you as to what's happening at home. But that's a very, I think it's not the most accurate description of how we work as humans. We are holistic. We bring those things to work. We are emotional human beings, and, what happens at home does and can affect us in the workplace. So that's why, I guess, as Adam said, it's really important to have that balance.
It absolutely does.
Yeah, that balance between your personal life and your work life, because it does really make a difference as to how productive you are and how much you enjoy your work, and as well as how much you enjoy being with your family and not having to stress about the fact that oh my gosh, I've got to answer these 50 emails tonight and then I can play with my kids. That's not a work-life balance. You're not being effective and you're not being efficient, and you're really putting a lot of stress on yourself and your family too.
So what is it? I mean, for me, work-life balance means effectively making time for things that I like, that I want to do and I like to do and I enjoy to do. So I really have to make the time for those sorts of things.
Yep.
And also put a high importance on rest and relaxation as well.
Yep.
So work-life balance also for me refers to getting a good night's sleep. And to do so, there's certain routines that I engage in terms of I try and wind myself down and do certain things like that.
Yep. Absolutely.
So what does it mean directly for you too?
What does it mean directly for me? I definitely I put as much importance on my work-life balance as I do on my work balance. Like you said, I always allocate the balance ideas or the balance things that I need to do as priorities. So they are important and they are urgent to me. So between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., that is my time. That is my time. I do what I love to do the most, which is all kinds of crazy stuff, but that is urgent and that is important to me. So I've kind of almost categorised that as that work-life balance has almost become a work priority or a life priority for me.
I think for students trying to answer this question, if you go, well, I'm not sure what it really means to me, because we'd like to know what it means to you, particularly. If you're not really sure what it means to you, just try and think about some of the things that you do. And you might do them once every 2 years. It might be horse riding once every 6 years. But think about the things that you do. You might swim once a week in a swim. I don't know.
Yeah.
Think about the activities that you do, and think about if you didn't ever do those ever again, would that affect you?
Yeah.
So just think about, if I would never do that ever again, would that bother me? And if it does, then you've probably found something that's important to you in terms of engaging in to get that work-life balance. So, yeah. And I'm happy to hear responses that are individual here, very, very individual. So, it might be, I work really hard, I do lots of work with the kids during the week, I like to go to the footy on a Saturday, and that's my 3 hours to myself. Yeah. I absolutely have to go and watch my footy team. That's fine, that's cool. That's your interpretation of it, and that's absolutely fine. There's a response,
Yep, absolutely.
So, actually, below question 6, I think I've just actually answered question 6 in the process there.
Yeah.
So really between 5 and 6, it's effectively the same thing. What does work-life balance mean for you? And when we say question 6 is what is the expectation that you have on yourself to maintain that balance? Provide an example. So we'd like to see an actual example listed there, but ultimately just give us a couple of activities that you generally engage in to do that. So my expectations are that that once I've looked after the kids and once I've cleaned the house, that I'll make sure that I get 1 hour to myself before, whatever it might be. We'd just love to hear what your particular individual expectations are.
Yeah, and I had a nice
and then the last question,
I had a nice answer from a student, and when she was provided an example of where you achieved work-life balance and what you did to achieve it. Hers was quite simply, I think she has 3 kids, and she was mentioning that she used to work Saturday evening because that was a requirement of the job, and that meant that she didn't get to see kids in the evenings, so she requested that she change her shift to Friday during the day, and the organisation was okay with that amendment, which meant that what she did was she had time on Saturdays now with her family. So she knew that it was impinging on her work-life balance, especially, her family time. So she asked her organisation to change the shift, and they went ahead and they said that was fine. And in the end, she gets to spend her Saturdays now with her kids, which is nice.
Yep, sounds great.
Cool.
Sounds great. In terms of achieving the balance, in terms of reducing stress, there are many things that you can do actually in order to remove stress. One really kind of cool thing to do is to break the routine. I know this sounds really silly, but just try something different. Go to a different cafe for lunch. Take a different route to work. Do something a little bit different. Have dinner in a different space. Go out, have dinner outside. Do something just completely different. Strangely enough, just doing some little subtle changes to a routine can just make a world of difference in terms of just getting that. Alyssa, you talked about it before, what recharges you. So think about what recharges you,
Yep.
and that's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
For these last 3 questions.
And just
Alyssa, let's jump on to the next series of questions.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Unless you want to add some more to this, but yeah,
No, I was just thinking, Gary, 2 minutes, there's a really great TED talk out there, and I think it's about 3 or maybe about 5 minutes long, and it actually challenges us to try something new for 21 days. So all of those things that we've always wanted to do, but work has kind of come into the way and we haven't been able to achieve it. Talk challenges us to start to introduce it and to do something and to do that one thing that we've always wanted to do 21 days in a row. It's a really interesting little TED talk, and I might pop it into some of the supplementary information if that's cool.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Love that sort of stuff. Love it.
It's a cool little thing. Yep, sorry, so let's move on to question 7.
Yep, which really just what are some things that you could do to improve your situation? And I'm happy if it's personal. If you love horse riding and this just gives you that peace and zen and that charges your batteries and you haven't been horse riding for 6 years, then get on a horse and get some horse riding into you. Yep. So, and then I'm happy for that as your answer too. Alyssa, you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it is definitely about, stop saying that you really want to do these things, and really just get in there and try and do them. Okay, so that's all. That's what I would. That's what I would definitely encourage. And what are some of the things you? So I would just say some of the things that you would do to bring work-life balance back in. Yeah. So again, it's just about knowing what you are. Yeah, it's about knowing who you are and it's about knowing who you are and just what you enjoy doing and bringing those things that you enjoy doing back into your life and doing it regularly.
Yep. And it's also just being in tune to your own body and your own body chemistry as well. So knowing the signs when you're stressed, knowing the signs when you're going to take a bit of time out, and just sometimes taking a day off is the best thing you can do for your productivity. As dumb as it sounds, a day off to recharge your batteries. The next 10 days you've achieved far more than you would have if you just pushed your way through that break. So just tune into your own signs, be aware of your own self, and that's one of the best ways to help achieve that balance as well. And I'm happy to move on to the next one if you are. What's up?
I think that's all the questions for that learning activity. I think we're moving on to professional growth now. Yeah, there is no.
Okay, cool. Let's look at the next topic, professional growth. Some students are experiencing a little bit of a dropout of your microphone. I believe that to be a connection at your end.
Yeah,
so I keep on.
I've just been muting it as the planes go across.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still think that you do drop out a little bit. You do. I'm not sure. You might need to just have a look at your internet connection. Let's have a look at professional growth. Firstly, before we jump onto professional growth, does anybody want to mention anything about work-life balance, about prioritising their time? If so, now's your opportunity. Okay, let's jump on to the first question in the next series, which we're looking at, which is professional growth. Now, just I guess to start, the very first question in professional growth is actually asking you to do a bit of reflection. So have a look at the last couple of years. It says 2 years, 3 years, whatever, 3 years, 2 years. Over the last sort of period of time, just identify some problems that you may have faced. Now we want you to keep this professional, so we don't want about the problems that might be happening outside of your professional life, although if they do relate quite particularly to your profession, it's possible you can use them. What we're wanting to know is what are some of the problems that you've encountered? How did you overcome those problems? And just give us a bit of an example about what you've learnt about yourself, and so on and so forth. Alyssa, would you like it if I was to give an example on this occasion for this one?
Yeah, that's fine. I guess this is, as Adam said, it's a very personal kind of question. I think it's going to be very unique to each student in terms of the answer, because obviously each of us have different definitions of what kind of problems that we face, and you know, how we experience overcoming them as well. So I would like to ideally see something that was very personalised here and very reflective of your own experiences.
Look, you're right. I mean, you've nailed it, Alyssa. We are looking for something quite personal here. We don't want it to be about something that you learned about somebody else. So we're not interested in, oh yes, I had a guy that I worked with and he always kept turning up late, so I learned that don't turn up late. No, it's about you. We want to know about problems that you face, and you know, some real things. We'd really like to hear some real things here. It is requiring you to share a little bit. So firstly, we do appreciate that. Alyssa and I are the only ones that see this. Nobody else sees it, so it's really between us. We are asking you to share a little bit. What we're asking is you know, what problems have you had and how did you deal with them? That's really what we're asking.
Yeah,
in a
absolutely.
professional sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for me, this carries over beautifully from the last one, you know, the work-life balance and things like that, because it's really important, again, to know about how you operate, you know, in terms of what your default routines are. When I say the word default routines, really what I'm talking about are our impulses, the way that we act in certain particular situations. I call them our default routines because it's sort of our default. You know, what do we do when things get really stressful and 45 orders come through on the machine and you get very, very stressed? What are your routines? Do you lose patience? You know, what sort of things do you do? So they're the sort of things we'd like to know. You know, what problems have you faced in work? What areas have you identified that you needed to grow in, and therefore how did you learn that, and what did you do to overcome that? I can tell you that I had an example actually a couple of years ago where I made the decision to get into training, into becoming a trainer. I've been a trainer now for 18 months, and at the time, I was absolutely dead set that that's what I wanted to do. I applied for my first job, and I didn't get it. And I applied for my second job, and I didn't get it. And I applied for my third job, and they said, look, we like you, but let's be honest, you've got a bit of a gap here. You don't have enough experience. You have enough experience in terms of the background and history that you've had with business. Don't have enough experience in terms of training and being in front of a group of people. So I asked them, okay, well, basically we had a conversation about exactly what my learning gap is or what I needed to do to be able to get to where I needed to go. And I decided to find myself a mentor and worked for 3 months for no money with the mentor and got my skills up. And within 4 months of being told, look, you don't have the skills to be able to do the job, I was offered a job. So in that particular scenario, I guess I identified that I had a skills gap, and I went about finding somebody to work with to do that. And I guess what I learned about myself, and this is a really, I guess, a personal sort of thing as well, and it's very, very much connected to your goals. But really, when you identify with something that you want to become, when you identify yourself as being that person, it's actually easy to take a hit. It's easy to be told. It's easy to handle the rejection of maybe not getting the first job or the second job. It's really not a problem working for free for 3 months. I worked for no money for 3 to 4 months just to get myself the skills that I needed. I would not have had it any other way. Now, I would never in any typical scenario work for free because it just doesn't really make any sense. But what I realized about myself is there's things I can actually do. As soon as I identified myself as being a trainer, I had no problems in doing what was required to do to get myself up to speed. So yeah, I guess that's sort of my take on that in the last couple of years. Sort of been partially my journey. So that's the sort of thing that we're kind of looking for here, guys. Just, you know, situation that you can refer to where you maybe had to sort of get a few more skills, or you had some problems with communicating with somebody in the office, or there was a horrible, I don't know, yeah. Well, this is going to be a really personal story here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're looking for. You know, it gives us a bit of insight into you, and it gives us a bit of insight into, and it'll help you again with your assessments when we eventually come around to them, and, you know, completing your professional development plan as well. So, yeah, so I think
Yes,
I'd be very much looking for a very, personalised experience.
absolutely. Let's go on to the next question, unless anybody has anything that they'd like to add to this. Let's roll on to the next one. Now, just before we do, guys, if you need a little bit of help in identifying your own strengths, your own weaknesses, or if you haven't really spent a lot of time in that reflective space where, you know, you consider things that you've had to learn or you've improved on, or you have to think about yourself and things that you might like, speak to Alyssa and myself, because we both have some resources available to you that will actually just assist you in identifying some of your own default routines, your own habits, some of your strengths and some of your weaknesses, which is really important, especially for this subject, but it's just an important thing in life. I mean, to be able to understand or empathise with somebody else, you really have to first know yourself well. So it's a great life skill. But let Alyssa and I know. We're certainly happy to give you some resources to help you with that if you need.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool.
All right.
Question two.
Yes, question
Alyssa.
2. Let's do it. So provide an example of current or previous performance management, and use this example to highlight how you best measure your own performance and the tools you used to assist you. So I think to ensure that we don't overcomplicate the question, I guess as Adam and I were talking about this morning, what we're looking for here is we're looking for an example where perhaps you've had something identified in terms of a gap or a performance that you needed to kind of enhance, and what you did to help you rectify that. Okay. So has anybody ever sat down with you and told you that there was not an issue, but somewhere where you could improve, and how did you go about improving it, and how did you know that you improved it?
Yep. You can even roll on from the first question. So, you know, it's a really interesting thing. But if you've identified an area that you had to learn something in the first question, so you had a problem, you had to learn something here, you can tell us how you measured that and what you did to measure that example. So yeah, you learned something in question 1. Well, how did you know it was learned?
Yep.
By question 2, how did you measure it? What were the tools that you used? And for me, and in my example, regular communication was my tool that I used. I had daily conversations with my mentor about my particular performance, areas that I needed to improve on, and that was how I did it. That was how I was able to measure myself, as well as the interactions I was having with my students, because I was doing face-to-face training at the time, so in-class training. And so that was the way that I was able to measure. That were the tools, and that was the way that I was able to measure my performance, because I'd already identified I had a learning gap, I needed some experience, I didn't have enough experience in working with students in a face-to-face environment, and so that was the way I measured my improvement there. And that's really all we're looking for in that one.
Yeah. The question itself seems to be quite complicated, but it's really not. Just take it for what we've just, just take it for what we've said. Exactly. Just don't allow yourself to get too involved or confused about the question. All right.
Yep.
We move on to
performance management. Often a term, and I was going to say performance management is often a term that's used in when an individual is requiring, you know, that one-on-one
support or
performance management. But it's really when they're being micromanaged. Typically, when somebody's being performance managed, it means that they're halfway out the door, and they've got to live up to a certain level of expectation as per an agreement between the employer and the employee to get them up to speed. But that's really, in this situation, we're just, wanting you to identify something that you had to improve on. Now, with that particular something, how did you measure it? How did you, that's basically.
Yeah.
So question number 3.
If you wanted a promotion, what competitive edge?
Actually, that'd be nice, lovely.
If you wanted a promotion, what competitive edge would specifically make you stand out from others at work, and why? I guess.
Now, this could be quite individual.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, you can answer this one. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was about to say the same thing. I guess the word that stands out is competitive edge, and again, it is just very personal response, as you were about to say, Adam. Just in terms of what you would define as being competitive, I guess, or giving you the competitive edge. What have you got that's different and unique to anybody else that would make you stand out if a job opportunity came about?
Yep. Have you had promotions before in the past, Alyssa?
I've had a couple of.
Or have you've always been the boss?
No. No. I've had a couple of promotions in my life, but yeah. I mean, not too many, but But I've had a couple.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to reflect on that, or would you like me to reflect on
Look,
something that I've experienced before?
I think for the type of roles that I've had or been offered promotions for, I think I've got. I think what gave me the competitive edge was probably the experience that I had had previously, and also some of the interpersonal skills that perhaps I may have. That I think I have. I think in terms of interpersonal skills, confidence, open-mindedness, being quite innovative and intuitive, and being quite emotionally intelligent as well is probably the reasons for why I guess I had the competitive edge in terms of a particular promotion that I had. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just about you again knowing who you are. And knowing where some of your real, strengths are, embracing them and showing them to those people that potentially are looking at promoting you or even giving you a job opportunity.
Yep. I mean, for me, I guess the underlying thing, and I've had a lot of experience in sales environments, and typically in sales environments is that they are quite emotional environments. There's a lot of pressure. You've got to get the results on the board. So in those typical types of environments, usually one of the most, noticeable characteristics on an individual is their attitude. So one of the best suggestions I can give to guys that are trying to get that edge on others is bring a good attitude to what you're doing. And I mean, it's really noticed that it comes off, it rubs off in everything you do, in terms of the way you interact with people, the way you talk to the customer, the way you speak to others around the office. So attitude is one of those sort of fundamental things. But again, these words that we're using, we're a little bit generalized here. So we're talking about being, intuitive and, having a good attitude. To give the guys something a little bit more concrete here, I would like just to say that something that you can do in life, and this is life, this is also in terms of in your working and professional life, is if you never ask, people will never know. So if you don't ask for something, nobody will ever give it to you. And that's in life, and that's in work. And as far as the competitive edge goes, how can we adapt that to this particular situation? For example, if you're looking for a promotion, if you're wanting that promotion, if you identify yourself as that person, you want to be that person, then you need to let people know that need to be let know. That might be your line managers, superiors, that might be team leaders or managers. You need to let them know what it is that you're looking to achieve and become and do. Now, you can do this in a really tactful way. So you can do it from the mindset. Look, you can do one of two ways. You could go in there, march in there, say, I want this promotion. I think I'm the best. Rah, rah, rah. That's cool. You can do that. Another way you can do it is you can walk in there and say, look, this is really what I would like to be doing. These are my ambitions. I would love if it's possible that you and I develop an action plan or a development plan so that I could work towards gaining the necessary skills and knowledge that I would need to be able to do that job as well as possible. Now, saying things like that come across really well because it shows that you're ambitious, it shows that you have a desire to learn and do more, but it also shows that you've got the modesty to be able to sit back and learn and do a little bit of, develop yourself to a certain point so that you can get yourself ready for that promotion, as it were. So for me, communication is probably obviously having a good attitude is that kind of underpinning sort of thing. If you have a horrible attitude, it doesn't matter how well you tackle the ask for these things, it's probably not going to work. But really, you've got to ask for what you want in life, and that's as simple as that. People can't give you what you want if you don't tell them. But there are good ways to go about doing it, So if you want a promotion, or if I would want a promotion somewhere, I would actually go about communicating my desires and wants to those that need it, and being really open and realistic to receive some feedback and to come up with a plan of attack or a development plan in which I can actually go about, working towards that. And I think that's the way to go about it personally. Alyssa?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Having confidence in yourself and your own abilities as well will, take a long, it'll take you in leaps and bounds. And just if you are looking at things like promotions and things like that, just make sure you're aligned to those promotions and it is part of what you want. I've had a lot of experience with people that have gone for promotions simply because it's about the title and it's about the cash. Make sure that if you are going for a promotion, that it's what you want. It's part of your career objectives. You're aligned to it. You believe in the position. You believe you can make the position work well. You believe it's part of who you are. Because if it's not, it'll only be detrimental to you and it won't make you stand out. It'll probably make you feel a little bit disempowered as well. But that's the only thing that I can kind of add to that is just, if you are going for a promotion, make sure it's what you want. Don't do it because it's just there. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've had plenty of situations in life where I had to just sort of check with myself first. Is this really me? Is this what I want to be doing? So, listen to the inner voice in your head. I mean, you really have to listen to that inner voice, otherwise it's not going to be good. Some strategies you could use to remain competitive. Well, speak to people, coach, mentor, shadow off other people, do some courses, go online, do some research.
We talk a lot about networking.
To ask questions.
Yeah, we talk a lot about networking as well in the unit. So again, that's a really good strategy that can help you remain competitive. Networking and associating and joining different groups and things like that will really help you with adding knowledge and valuable information to what's happening in your industry of choice. So that'll help you remain competitive and knowledgeable and also probably link you to other people that perhaps can align you to or suggest different opportunities as well for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 And look, I think that's something I've mentioned in terms of goal setting before, but don't be afraid to ask people for help. Don't be afraid to act a little bit vulnerable in front of somebody. Look, I'm not really sure. I was hoping you might be able to help me here. People love that. I mean, it just works. It works with people's egos. They love being asked if they can help somebody. People like being asked for help because it makes them feel more, makes them feel better about themselves. So don't worry about asking for help from time to time because, in fact, what you're actually doing is you're giving somebody that sense of satisfaction anyway.
Yep.
So it's just an interesting side spin to that fact. I think that pretty much wraps up our second webinar for planning, guys.
Yeah.
Business students, we do have another, so Diploma Business students, there is another webinar this week. It's going to be on Thursday. It's going to be at 4 o'clock, is that correct?
Yeah, so the next one's at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock on Thursday.
Yep.
And that one will be on project planning. Yep. Project planning. So we'll see you guys there.
Yep.
Any questions, please let Alyssa and I know directly. And for those that are watching in, thanks very much for tuning in.
Thanks,
guys. Just before we go, does anybody here have any questions before we wrap it up? Or thanks very much, guys, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.
All right. Thanks, guys.